Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we are here today with lesson number 14 in the new, the improved, the great Arduino tutorial series. And I am really impressed with how much we have learned in the earlier lessons, and it seems like we just learned a little bit at a time, but now all of a sudden we can start doing some pretty cool things. What are some of the things that we learned to do? We learned to digital write. That would be making an LED turn on or off, or making something turn on or off. And then we learned analog write, which allowed us to do things in the in-between numbers between 0 and 5 volts. Analog out, analog write, we can write the in-between values. We learned how to do an analog read. And so we learned how to use potentiometers and we learned how to use LEDs. So what if we brought some of this stuff together and started doing something that looked a little bit more like a project that actually does something? And so what we want to do today is we want to create a dimmable LED where as we turn the potentiometer, the LED turns off and the LED gets brighter and brighter and brighter until it's all the way on, and then we dim it again. Okay, and so there's going to be some math involved. There's going to be bringing together a lot of the stuff that we've learned in the earlier lessons. So I need you to get a cup, a mug of iced coffee, ice with black coffee. It's getting towards the end of the day and I have ice, but the coffee is almost gone. Almost completely gone. I'll have to bring more tomorrow. I also need you to get your most excellent eLego Super Starter Kit. If you don't have one of these yet, look in the description, click on the link. 35 bucks and you've got yourself an Arduino and a boatload of components, and we are using that kit for this entire series of lessons. So if you want to play along at home, hook a brother up, click on that link and buy your kit. All right, what is our objective in this lesson? Our objective is to create a dimmable LED that is connected to a potentiometer. If the potentiometer is all the way to the left, I want the LED to be all the way off. If the potentiometer is all the way to the right, I want the LED to be all the way on. And in between, I want it to smoothly dim and brighten with the position of the potentiometer. So in order to do this, what are you going to need out of your kit? Let me get out of the way a little bit here. And because you've been working so hard and because you have been making such exceptional progress today, you are going to be allowed to use a green LED, celebrating your success. Up until now, we've used red LEDs. Today, you may use your green LED in celebration of your progress. We're going to use the potentiometer and we need a resistor to put in series with the green LED. Now I have done all of these parts of these, all this circuit I have done in other lessons, so I am going to do it again here, but I'm going to go kind of fast, and if you're not following me, you need to go back and review some of those earlier lessons. So first of all, let's get our potentiometer going, and I'm going to try to really watch and make sure that I'm doing things where you can see them. Right, the potentiometer needs to be right above that trench with the two legs, and you've got to kind of press it in, and then the bottom leg is right below the trench. Now we've got to hook that up. The leg on the left leg on the top is going to go to 5 volts, which would come over to the Arduino and put it in 5 volts. And then the bottom leg, or the right leg, the right leg here, we need to connect to ground G and D, which is by pin 13. All right, I'm going fast because we've gone through all this before. Now I need to take this bottom leg that's in the center, and that's the pin that we read off of. So I'm going to come over here to A1, analog pin 1. So from this analog pin, I'm going to read the potentiometer value. So this is half the circuit already done. Now the other half is we need to put our current limiting resistor in. I am going to put that starting in column 25 and then the other leg in column 30. Okay, I go from column 25 to column 30. Coming over to column 25, I'm going to put a red, doesn't matter what color, but a red wire. And now, remember, we want something that we control the brightness, and so we can't just use any digital pen. We're going to need to do analog writes. So what kind of pen do I need? One with a squiggly, and one with a squiggly would be pen 6. I like to use different pens just to shake things up a little bit. Now we need our LED, long leg towards the voltage supply, so long leg will go to the resistor there in column 30. And then the short leg goes back where? It goes back to ground. Now luckily I've got 3 grounds on the Arduino, so I'm not going to have to create a ground rail. I'm just going to go up to that GND that is up there on the top, that GND. All right, so now we have got this thing set up. So now we have to do some coding. The reason I like this project is to do this project, not only do you have to do some coding, but before you do some coding, you are going to have to do some math. And I really want you to think through the math, and I want you to do the math. And so therefore you need a ruler, and you need some graph paper, and I want you to do it with me. And every time I do these lessons, there's always someone that comes in that says, oh, well, you could do it simpler just by blah, blah, blah. Yeah, for a simple case you can. But I want you to understand linear equations. I want you to understand how to do them. You probably did them in high school, but I want you to go back and remember how you do them, because you might be able to just wing it and make this project work, but as projects get more complicated, you cannot do them if you do not understand linear equations. And so we're going to go in and we're going to learn how lines work. And you need to know that in order to do projects like this. Okay, so let's think about it. When we read a value from this potentiometer, when we read that value from that leg, that is going to read a voltage between 0 and 5 volts. But it doesn't read a number 0 to 5. The number is what? Tell me. It's 0 to 1023. So the read val that we're going to get from here is between 0 and 1023, and kind of smoothly between 0 and 1023 as we turn that potentiometer. But to write to the LED with an analog write, we need to write a value between 0 and what? 255. So if you just read the potentiometer value 0 to 1023, and if you write that to the LED, it's not going to work, because you're going to very quickly get to 255 and you've pegged it out. And then you're going to write values above 255, and then the analog write isn't going to work. The whole thing is going to mess up. So let's think about this. And I hope you will do this along with me, and I hope you will do things the way I do it, because I want you to learn to be an engineer. I want you to work precisely, neatly, carefully. And probably one of the most important things you can learn from me is how to work as an engineer. And even though this is a simple problem, this is the type of thing that I did when I was an engineer. All right, so let's think about it. Let's draw a graph. Okay, like this. Make it nice and neat, and we are going to label our axes. Okay, so x is the independent variable. Okay, so this would be like x, and this would be y. X is the independent variable. What are we measuring? We're measuring the value from the potentiometer. So we're going to call this axis pot val, the pot value. And then we want to turn that into what? LED value. LED value. All right. So the pot val is going to go between 0 and 1023, and then we want to turn that into a number between 0 and 255. So let's think, what is our first point? If you read a value of 0 on the potentiometer, what value do you want to put on the LED? Well, you want to put 0. That one is easy. 0 pot val turns into 0 on the LED val, because if pot val is 0, you want the LED to be off, you want to write a 0. Okay, that one's easy. Now the next one is out here at 1023. If you read 1023 on the potentiometer, what do you want the LED to do? You want the LED to be fully on, which means you should write, if you have a value of 1023 on the pot, what should you write? You should write a value of 255 to the LED, and that's this point here. What do you want between those 2 points? You want a line. Okay. Now, in between these values, you want to scale things along the line. So what do we need? We need an equation for the line that will turn pot val, which goes between 0 to 1023, into LED val, which goes from 0 to 255. So to come up with the equation of a line, you need what? 2 points. So what are my 2 points? My points are 0, 0, and then my second point is 1023 and 255. All right, does that make sense? 1023 and 255. I need to find the slope of that line. What is the slope of the line? M is equal to, let's do it the way you learned it. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, but we're not doing x and y, we're doing pot val and lead val. So let's rewrite it that way. M is equal to pot val 2 minus pot val 1 over, oh, I messed up. It's y, sorry. M is equal to lead val 2 minus LED val 1, and then that's going to be over pot val 2 minus pot val 1. All right. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm rewriting the slope of the line using the variables that you're using. And that way you understand that lines are real. It's not just x and y and this abstract stuff. This is real stuff. So the slope is M is LED val 2 minus LED val 1 over pot val 2 minus pot val 1. So let's calculate what that is, because I have 2 points. I can calculate the slope. The slope is, what is LED val 2? It's 255 minus LED val 1 is 0 over pot val 2, which is 1023, right? 1023 minus pot val 1, which is 0. Okay. So the slope of the line is 255 over 1023. And I'm just going to leave it like that because I can put that in the Arduino when I program it. All right, so I now know the slope of the line. Well, what do I need to know now? I need the equation of the line. And I have a point and I have a slope. So we can use the point slope formula of a line. And what is that? Y minus y1 is equal to m onto x minus x1. All right, that's how you learned it, but we're going to work in the real world with our real values here. And that way we get an equation which we can program into the Arduino using our real variable names. So what is y? Y is LED value. So I have LED value minus LED value 1 is equal to m onto pot val minus pot val 1. All right, now I have LED val 1 is 0, and pot val 1 is 0. So those will go away, and I'm left with, those won't always go away, though. That only goes away when your line intercepts the origin. And most of the time, the line doesn't intercept the origin. And that's why you need to know how to do this, because a lot of times you would actually have to put values in there. But what we're going to do is that is 0, right? The point 0, 0. LED val 1 is 0. Pot val, LED val 1 is 0. Pot val 1 is 0. We're going to use that point, so I'm going to be left with LED val is equal to M times pot val. All right, and I have M. So now I have LED val is equal to M, which is 255 over 1023. 255 over 1023 times pot val. Okay, this is the result that we want. And guys, I actually work way closer. I work way neater than this. But the thing is, I'm having to work under a camera and my arms at a strange angle, and so this is not as neat as the work I do if I have it right in front of me. So I apologize that I'm not being a neater example. And so let's come back over here, and let's see if we can get this circuit here, and let's see if we can have our equation. And now let's see if we can make some magic happen by coming over here to what would be a good shot? What would be a good shot? Let's see. Let's look at this shot here so we can see all of this stuff. And so I need to come up here. All right, now I need to start thinking about my variables. One variable that I will have is I will have pot pin, and that is going to be an int pot pin equals, I forgot what I hooked that up. That was equal to A1. That pin going to the potentiometer is hooked to pin A1. So that's going to be equal to A1, semicolon. And then int, I'm going to have LED pin. I'm going to make it easier. I'm going to say G pin for green pin is equal to, we put that in pin 6 because that is one of the ones with a squiggly. And then I'm going to have a read value, right? I'm going to have the value that I read off the potentiometer, so I'm going to call that pot val. That is that number between 0 and 1023 that I read off of the potentiometer. So I don't put a value here, I just declare it because I'll actually be reading it in here, right? And then I'm going to change that into, and here, yeah, I'm going to leave it as an int. I'm going to change that into the LED val, right? I've got to have that variable LED val, so I'll say LED and then val. And I'm not going to put a value on it. I'm just declaring it as an int. Why am I not putting a value on it? Because I'm going to calculate it based on pot val using this equation. I think LED val, I think I better make it a float. Okay, I think it's probably better being a float. I might have to change this. Sometimes it should work. It's just sometimes things are a little different than what you would expect. So I have pot pin, G pin, pot val, and LED value. Now I'm using how many pins? 2. How many pin modes do I need? 2. So I'm going to have pin mode, and then I've got my pot pin, and that is a what? That's an input. Happy little green color. Now I have pin mode. And what do I have? G pin. green pin, I'm going to write to that, so that's an output. Those are my two pin modes. So now I'm probably going to print some stuff out, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the serial monitor, serial.begin, and I use the old trusty 9600 baud. And now what am I going to do in the loop? Well, I need to first of all read the value from the pot val. So I need to read pot val, and after I read pot val, I need to calculate LED val. And after I calculate LED val, then I need to write that to the pin 6, to G pin. Okay, does that make sense? Read where the potentiometer is, calculate the LED value, write the LED value. I think that's an excellent plan. So what do? I am going to read pot val. So I'm going to say pot val is equal to what? Analog read. Where do I analog read from? Pot pin. One parameter. Now what do I need? I need to then calculate LED value. And so I'm going to say LED val is equal to what? 255 point, because I want this to be floating point math, divided by 1023 point, and then times pot val, which I just read. Now let's look and see if this makes sense. If I read a pot val of 0, I'm going to get an LED val of 0, which I want. If I read a pot val of 1023, which means all the way to the right, 1023 divided by 1023 makes 1, times 255. I'm going to write 255, which should be full brightness. So I just like to do kind of a sanity check to make sure that this looks right. That looks right. Now what do? I do an analog write. And where do I write? I write to G pin. And what do I write? I write LED val that I just calculated. Boom. Okay. Now just to be safe, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to make sure that I did this right, and so I'm going to go ahead and do a serial.println, and I'm going to go ahead and what do I want to print? I'm going to go ahead and print LED val, just to make sure that I'm getting numbers between 0 and 255. Okay? Anything else? I'm sure I did something wrong. And so let's see if it downloads and compiles. So we come over here, click the download button. It is happy. It is happy. Boom, it downloaded. Now it downloaded, but is this going to work? That is the next question, and I do not like what I see right off the bat. Let me look here at the serial monitor. That is just crazy no good. That is crazy no good. So let's see. What did I do wrong? I am on. I see what I did. You know what nope, that's right. Pot pin is A1. You see, let me show you let me go over to this other shot and show you what my problem is. If I call up the serial monitor, actually it's good when this happens because you can kind of go through things with me and we can figure out what is wrong. Okay, so if I come here and open up the serial monitor, okay, so I'm getting zeros now. That is good. I'm getting zeros. Okay, I think I must have had a little wire loose because I was getting voltages when I should not have gotten voltages. And so that looks good. And then let's turn it up a little bit. Okay, so now let's see if we can get a better shot here. Let's come here. Okay, and now let's see if this thing works. Let's zoom in. That scared me. I think I had a little bit of a loose wire. Sometimes you don't get real good connections. Okay, and let me get that in there good. All right, so now I'm all the way to the left and the LED is off. I'm just going to turn it a tiny bit, begin turning it a tiny bit to the right, and then it is just barely coming on. You can barely see it. I do not have good connections here. Let me see if I can get these things connected good. Something is amiss here. It's there. I want to make sure I've got it grounded good. I mean, A1. Okay, all the way to the left is 0. I begin turning it, and then it begins coming on. Man, you know what the problem is? Is that this is really, really dim, but it looks bright on the camera. Okay, now I'm going to turn it a little bit more, and it gets a little brighter, a little brighter, a little brighter, a little brighter, and then full brightness. Boom, this is really working. Let me see if I can turn the lights off, and let me see if you can see it better. If you're playing along at home, you're going to see how well this works, but it is just hard to have the camera capture this as well as it's really working. And so I'm going to come here and I'm going to start dimming it and dimming it and dimming it. And do you see how it's getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and then it's off, and then it's on, and then it's off. And turning the lights off, my green screen isn't working. Boom. I hope you did this, and I hope it is working as well for you at home as it is working here. All the way to the left is off. It begins to come on and get brighter and brighter and brighter to full brightness. Boom. This thing is working perfectly. This thing is working perfectly. So what I absolutely love about this project is I love that it's bringing together the different individual steps that we've done. Let me come back and converse with you. It is bringing together the individual simple steps that we have done. It is starting to build something that is really doing something, right? It's a dimmable LED. You're reading from a potentiometer, you're calculating a desired output, and then you're applying that output to the LED. Do you see how dim that thing is? It's just barely on, and then I can bring it up and bring it up and bring it up and bring it to full brightness. Bam! That was BAM, B-A-M, that I just said, okay, in case you misunderstood me. This thing is just working like an absolute champ. I like it because it's bringing together the different individual things that we learned, and it's starting to do something that's beginning to look like a real project, beginning to show you the power of what you can do with an Arduino. I also like it because you really need to do the math to do this, and I want to start trying to incorporate more math into the project so you can see the importance of math. Some of these things are much easier if you do the math than if you just try to wing it. Okay, going to try it one more time here. Man, I just love doing this. This is so much fun. I like to see how dim I can get it. You see? You see how dim that is? You can barely see it. I got too small. I shouldn't be that small. All right, guys, leave your comments down below. Really like hearing from you. Were you able to do this project? Are you playing along? Are people going through these lessons? Sometimes I wonder, am I just sitting and talking to a wall? Does anybody actually listen to the whole video? Think about giving us a thumbs up. Think about subscribing to the channel, maybe sharing this with other people, this series of lessons with other people. Okay, Paul McWhorter, TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.